Hello. Welcome to this episode of Hammering Down. I'm your host, Keller Hodges, and I'm hoping you're having a great day. Hey, we are less than a week away until we have our first match day of the season. It'll be versus Nashville SC, now of MLS. This is the first time we've played Nashville SC at home in front of fans. I know a lot of stipulations since 2019 when Nashville was in the USL. So that's pretty fun. Last time that I know of that Legion took on Nashville, Mohamed Boya scored a goal for Legion. That it's been a minute. Do y'all remember Mohamed Boya apparently, he won TikTok Footballer of the Year this year. I feel like that was a fake award, but it's fine. That's a side plot that no one really cares about. But I put out some questions on social media and I just decided I wanted to kind of go over them and answer any questions leading into Nashville. Now, this is not a preview of Nashville SC. This is more or less just kind of a state of Legion going into match day one. And so I put questions out on social media, on the Blue Sky, on Reddit, on Instagram, on Twitter. And I got some questions. And I'm going to there's a lot of variations of this question, which is realistic expectations for 2026. And I think this is a really interesting question because I don't think it's easy to figure out right now because I am frankly a lot higher on this Birmingham roster than I think a lot of people are. Right now, I am looking at, and this is just kind of going whoever's on the team right now, where you have Damas, you have Salcedo, you have Peter Lee Vassell, you have Sam Sashua, you got Pasher and Tregarthen, you got McLatin, you got Daly, you got Kavita, Bryce Washington, our new signing, AJ Patterson, Rami Zamuda until about May. You got McCartney and you got McMullen currently in net. I'm pretty high on all those pieces, to be honest. I really like the starting 11. In fact, I think there are conversations about what the best starting 11 is. I think that there's a world where Tregarthen is starting over somebody. I don't know who that is right now, but somebody. I think there's a world where Patterson might be getting in over a McAlatin at CDM, possibly, in order to get Washington onto the pitch. Or maybe Washington displaces Patterson or Kavita altogether. I think that highly of Bryce Washington. I think there's a lot of good spots. I think the biggest weakness that I'm looking at right now is McMullen, whom he doesn't have a lot of professional time between the sticks, but I really rate him as a goalkeeper. I think he has a lot of potential. And I know we got used to having Matt Van Okel, who played for 18 years professionally, but every goalkeeper has to get a start somewhere. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for McMullen to get a start. I like what I see out of him. And we'll talk about some of that a little bit later as we get farther into questions. But I'm really high on this 11. Meanwhile, I am looking around the league. All right. I'm looking at Brooklyn, whom I like their base. They have McNamara in their lineup. They have a Peter Mangione, sorry, in the midfield, whom I like those two as a pairing. They have Gabriel Albus playing left back, which is we all love him here. Thomas Van Castile at center back, and then they have JC Obregon, who's won the Golden Boot last year and is just an all-and-out great striker at the USL League One level, and he had a little bit of time at the championship level, but still. And Jackson Lee in net. But overall, they don't have a full 11 yet. So there's that. Then there's Charleston. Charleston's going to be great. Charleston's going to be top one or two. That they just are. They are them and Lou City are going to be 1 and 2 in the East again. But I think that is. I think you can already say, okay, Legion's going to be, if I'm ranking this in order right now, Legion's third behind Charleston, Lou City. Okay. Next up, we got Detroit City FC, whom I like their roster build early. They have Bryant, they have a Hope Gund, they have Saldana, they have Amu Mensa, Stanley, Juve, Yamazaki, they have Cedeno, Smith, they have Kobe Hernandez Foster and Maxi Rodriguez in the midfield. I like their build. I do. But I think up top, they are very feast or famine. So maybe you could put Legion in Detroit City about even. So that's something to kind of look at. I'm looking down at Hartford. They still have a good squad, but it's definitely a shell of itself from last year. In fact, I think I like Legion's build more than Hartford right now. So right now we're talking Blue City, Charleston, in whatever order you want to put them, and then Detroit, Birmingham together above Hartford and Brooklyn. I'm looking down at Indy, and they have good players, but I'm not entirely sold that they are better than they were last year. So put Legion even with them. Jacksonville, I just don't like their roster. I just don't. I do not like their roster right now. They got Mama Torre, whom I like. They have their forward, who comes from St. Louis. He has a very Scandinavian name. I'm not even going to try to say it. It's J, a lot of A's, SK's in there as well. Freaks me out, scares me. So, but he's a good player. But the rest of it, I don't like. I just really don't. So put Legion above them for now. We've Loudon. I think Loudon has a chance to finish third in this East. I think that they are a better team than they were last year in terms of talent alone. Will it all come together? I don't know, but I'm willing to put it go Lou City, Charleston, Loudon right now, with Birmingham equal to Detroit City and maybe Indy. And then going through, let's see, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a fun one. Pittsburgh just won a championship, and I am a big Charles All believer. I think Barnes is great. I think Sousa is great. Edrak is great. Nico Campuzano is great. Robbie Mertz, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If Dequa and Amon are who they were in 2022, I think Pittsburgh has a chance to finish first in the East. If Dequa and Amon are who they were in 2025, I think Legion might have a chance to be at the same level, if not a little better than Pittsburgh. I think it all comes down to the finishing. I think defensively they're going to be solid, but can they score goals? That's a conversation. So depending on which version you're getting right now, you could have Legion finishing fourth or fifth currently. Rhode Island FC, I love their team. I do, but I still think they have question marks in the attacking midfield. But I would say the same thing about Legion. So let's call Legion about fifth or sixth right now. Tampa Bay, I love Tampa Bay's lineup. Everybody, I always end up being a Tampa Bay truther. If they can figure it out, get it together, then I think Tampa Bay could finish again first or second in this league. I really do. So let's call that Legion finishing sixth or seventh. Miami, I hate the roster. I really do. I like individual pieces. Nutson's great. They got Rogers, whom I like. They got DaCosta, who I like. Tunbridge, who I like. Jurgen Lacadia, which is a good name, but has never really performed. So I think Legion finished above them. I think a realistic finish for Legion is somewhere between 6th and 10th. I know it's a wide range, but if this Legion squad hits and this team really hits, I consider that to be around 6 to 10 range, which I know is not what Legion fans want to hear, but that's still a playoff contending team, which they weren't last year. And I think that's a step forward. Does it hurt losing guys like Enzo and Jake and Thiago Suarez, who goes over to San Antonio? And all these players like a Moses Mensah. Does it hurt to lose them? Of course. But I think that in its current iteration, its starting 11, Legion could see themselves competing top I would say a top 6 finish. I think that starting 11 can compete with the top 6 in the East, which is big. Honestly, it is. But then we get into the questions of depth. In terms of depth, there is no depth. So that's where if one player gets hurt, if it's in the wrong place, the season could be over. That's kind of what we're looking at in terms of expectations. That's what I'm looking at going into the season. There's a lot of good free agents still available. We can talk about how all that fits, but I think that is kind of where we're sitting here. Okay, here's a question from Reddit. Will there be a manager search in the future, or is this the plan to stick with Jay Heaps? According to Jay Heaps and in the interview which they did, which Timothy Bellin, which if you are not following his work and not just on Birmingham Sports, but also on his personal Substack, go subscribe to it. I don't know why you're not. He is legit the best of the best out there covering Legion right now. I mean, it's him, John, and like me at the bottom. I think that those two are just doing amazing work. But Timothy has the full thing out there, the full log out there, and he said that when Briggs approached them about signing with Dallas, this was just after the holiday season, and they did not have a lot of time to find a replacement, and they kind of knew that. So they decided that they were just going to let Jay kind of do the thing. And plus, Jay missed coaching. He said it himself when he was the unofficial interim head coach, because it was officially Avi, Eric Avila. But he kind of admits that he was sort of the interim coach, as we kind of knew. And he said he missed it. He said it gave him that drive, that fire back. And so, at least for this year, it's 100% going to be Jay. If they sign a coach this season, I think the season's over. Straight up. I think that if they sign a coach midway through this year, it's because Legion are like in last place or something. If they are even remotely competitive, it's going to be Jay Heaps. And then to end the off season, I think Jay will have to decide himself, do I want to keep coaching? Which he said himself that he only wanted to, he stopped coaching and wanted to take a different position so he didn't have to travel all the time. And he still has a kid who I think is a freshman or sophomore in high school, but the other two have graduated. So maybe he feels like he can go out and do the thing now and be a coach and travel. But maybe not. We'll see. But I think that if things go well, Jay's going to have a decision to make. If things don't go well, then I think he'll just step down and they'll have a full off season. So for Legion fans' sake, let's hope Jay has a decision to make. If not, if there is no decision to make and they start looking for a coach this offseason, it went horribly wrong. So for Legion's sake, you're hoping that Jay is kind of the guy and it works out that way. Got some more questions. Who will be GK1? Trevor McMullen right now looks like, since he's the only one signed to a roster. However, there is Daniel Gagliardi, who he has 12 appearances professionally, and his biggest run came from Miami, which was the worst team ever. Like ever, but it wasn't his fault. And I think that when you're looking at Gagliardi, he kind of fits the mold of a Matt Van Oekel. Safe hands, good hands, is going to come clean crosses in the box. Big body, can go do the dang thing. I feel the same way about Trevor McMullen. Maybe not as big of a body, but still. They're different goalkeepers than Delgado. And I don't think that's a bad thing. They're a little bit safer in the hands. They're a little bit, they're able to push through in the box on corners, and instead of just punching everything, they're going to be able to claim, catch, all that kind of stuff. And with Matt Van Oekel being the goalkeeper coach, I see him being able to work with guys like that. I'm not saying he couldn't work with Delgado, but they're in the same frame of who he is. And I know Legion fans are going to say, well, they're not experienced. They're not experienced. I get that, but I also don't think it matters as much as you think, because these guys do have a lot of League Two experience. They've played the adults before and they've trained, and I understand it matters, but when you're looking for someone to be back there and just be a pure shot stopper, I think these two are really good at that. I think the biggest thing from last year when Delgado was starting was he would block shots, but the ball would spill. He wasn't the safest hands in the world. I trust Trevor McMullen and I trust Gagliardi a lot more in that regard. It's the reason why Matt Van Okel played for so daggum long. He could shot, he could block shots, stop shots. Easy for me to say. Um, and he wouldn't spill it. It just would not spill out of his hands. He was safe. And I do believe that's the same way. Would I like to see a higher level goalkeeper come in? Of course. Someone who's a lot more established, someone who could really make a difference with this team. Of course, I would love that. But I don't see this being any different than when Legion brought in like a Jaden Hubbard, Hibbert, one of the two, from Atlanta United too a couple years ago. Yeah, they were playing professionally in Next Pro, but Next Pro is mostly teenagers, right? Teenagers, young players, not grown men necessarily. There's a couple, but not many. So this is no different than bringing in an ex-pro goalkeeper, and these are guys, especially McMullen, who's been around Legion for about a year now. So I think that McMullen is a better option than fans are giving him credits for. Let's see. What else do we got? Expected at least likely formation depth chart. How many more signs should we expect? I do think that officially on roster, we are looking at, and I'm going to make sure I have this correct. We have currently 13 players on roster, or 14 players on roster, 13 if you consider the fact that Ramis is leaving after May. So I think you should expect 3 to 4. I would say 4 to 5 more signings. Absolutely. If I were Legion, I would probably make closer to 6 to 8 more signings. So I think you're going to, after these preseasons start wrapping up and you start seeing trialists or players you've never seen before, but they have names on the back of their jersey. We've done this before. Then you'll kind of know, okay, we got some signings here. They just aren't officially announced. In terms of formation, I'm really interested in this. So if you're not a visual person, if you're not someone who's watching, I put together little videos that I'm going to be putting up on the screen. And I think that we have two options, and it's a 4-1-4-1 or it is a 3-4-3, and they're really not that different. Okay. So we're going to look at the 4-1-4-1 first, where when it gets into the attack, I do believe that you're going to see it float into kind of a 2-1-5-2 sort of situation, where if we are looking at this, it's going to be your defensive midfielder, whomever that may be, is going to be kind of sitting as a recycling player in front of the two center backs, with one of the central midfielders standing on top of the box. Either way, with our left and right wingers, they're going to be kind of sitting towards the top of the box as well, being options as they are both inside forwards. So I'm looking at a Saucedo and a Tower Pasher being inverted wingers. It's what I'm assuming, kind of like a Prosper Kasim, cutting on the inside, taking a shot to the far post. It's kind of what we got used to. Whenever one side has the ball, if the right-hand side has the ball, right, your right back, right wing, you're going to see the right wing tucking to the top of the box for a shot. Meanwhile, the right back is pushing forward to cross the ball in, where you'll see Damas kind of crashing near post, the left wing crashing back post, and then the central midfielder on top of the penalty spot, which is now being called the second 6-yard box. Is kind of what a lot of coaches are calling the scoring area now. Just giving you a little bit of analytics things are going on. They kind of call it the scoring area. And so it's going to kind of be this sort of shape. And you're going to have another central midfielder sitting on top of the box in kind of zone 14. So if anything kind of gets them, kind of take some shots and pick your spot, that sort of thing, or be able to chip it forward. As it goes back, it can transition really well back to a 4-1-4-1. But defensively, I want to see this kind of being a 5-4-1. So what you're going to see is it be a compact shape, and you're going to have your left back, your right back, all kind of tucked into the back with your center backs split, and the defensive midfielder coming in and acting as a third center back. Meanwhile, your left wing, your right wing is going to compress in, your central midfielders compressing in, cutting off these half spaces. And then you're going to have your outlet forward, which is going to be Ronaldo Damas. And those are what you're looking at. I think it's going to be a very compact defensive shape where your defensive midfielder is going to act like a third center back in defense, and then your wings and your central mids compacting space, top of box, and cutting off any kind of half spaces. I think it's going to be a very compact system. And the reason why I think it's going to be either a 4-1-4-1, which is what Jay Heaps played, or a 4-2-3-1, or a 4-3-3, which I'm going to give you a little bit of analytical talk. The difference between a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-1-4-1 is nothing. It just depends on how you want to look at it. Depending on how I draw my circles and say that's the 1 or this is a 3, like if I'm going to look at my example, that's going to be up on the screen. I'm looking at this 4-1-4-1. You could call this a 4-3-3 if you want to call it that, if you so want to. Your choice, man. It depends. But that's kind of what I'm expecting. Meanwhile, the 3-4-3 is not that different. Okay, so what you're seeing here is you have 3 center backs, you have a left mid or a right mid, as opposed to a right back and a left back, and you still have your central midfielders. So you would say, okay, this looks vastly different. You don't have a central defensive midfielder, and that's really the biggest difference between the two. But I think depending on how Legion wants to go for this, now I don't think it's that different. I think you're still going to have a center back step up and be a recycling player. I think that if you're looking at an AJ Patterson, I think he's someone who, for Grenada, for country, he has played the 6 before. So he could be a really good recycling player. Your left mid, your right mid is going to be filling in the same spaces that you saw before, the same kind of setup where a central midfielder is going to be sitting on top of the penalty spot, that scoring area. Your left and right wing are going to be kind of floating in between, whether it's they're cutting inside to score or one of them's crashing the back post, depending on which side the ball is on. And when they are transitioning back, you're still going to see right mid, left mid. And then when they go back into defense, it's the same thing. It's going to be a 5-4-1 defense. I think that you're still going to see them try to cut off these half spaces. I think that you're going to see them be very compact defensively because we got big bodies in the midfield. So if you're going to let them have that kind of wide spaces on the outside, I think we had the big bodies in the middle to deal with it. And same thing when it pushes forward, you still have a center back playing the middle of the field, probably an AJ Patterson in this situation. So who's going to be starting? That's the question, right? And I think it depends. I think that this is where we start looking at your question marks in this back line. So I'm going to put up the 4-1-4-1 again. Again, if you're not someone who's watching, this may not make a lot of sense. If I am looking at the 4-1-4-1, I have 2 question marks here. My first question mark is going to be my left back. Right now, it is said to be Dawson McCartney. I think Dawson McCartney is a great player. I want to have him in the team every single week. I like him more as a left mid. I do. I think he's a better left mid than a left back. Not that I think he's bad defensively, but what the left back is going to be asked to do, going up and down, do the full field thing, be true box to box, if not a little bit more. I think that I like him being more of a left mid option and kind of tucking into the midfield a little bit. We saw him before where he would play kind of central midfield as well. The other question mark is defensive mid. Are you going to play Sam Michelson? Maybe. I really like Sam Michelson as the defensive midfielder. I really do. I really, really rate Sam Michelson. I am a truther of his. But when it gets into defense, uh, Sam is, and in the most endearing way I could say it, he's a little vertically challenged. Okay, so do you really want him to be sitting in this back five as a center back? Probably not. I think that's going to be a big issue. So that leaves the question of AJ Patterson. Okay, AJ Patterson's played the six before. We've seen him do it. So that makes it a pretty obvious reason why you want to have him. I think when you're looking at the pace of AJ Patterson and the passing ability, he's a great passer. Don't get me wrong. But I think that I like Sam Mickelson just a little bit more. So when we're in the attack, I think I'd rather have Sam in the midfield here, being that distributor and that recycler option. So I think it comes down to what flavor do you want? What do you care about more? Do you care about the attack and what you're trying to get going forward? Because I think of Sam as a little bit more of an 8 than a 6 personally. Or do you care about what's happening defensively? I think that's your big question mark. Same thing happens when I am looking over here at the 3-4-3. Here's my question. If we're going 3-4-3, put Dawson McCartney on the left-hand side. Don't even have that conversation with me. Right? That's happening. And the back line, no more question mark. Okay, for sure it's gonna be AJ Patterson, Bryce Washington, and Fanwell Kavita. Right mid becomes interesting though, because Amir Daly and Sebastian Tregarthen. I think Sebastian Tregarthen should be starting in this team. I do. I think that he should be starting in this team. I think he's arguably the best player on this team. However, do we think that he is a good enough right back to usurp Amir Daly? Maybe, maybe not. Is he a better right winger than Tyler Pasher to usurp Pasher? Maybe, but that's a harder conversation, I think. I think if it's a right mid, I think you give it to Sebastian Tregarthen. I think that he is in the place that the only if he was another player at another position at all, right? And I know this doesn't exactly work, but the right-hand side is arguably the best part of this team. I think that if Sebastian and again, I love Dawson McCartney. I think he's a class player. But if Sebastian Tregarthen was a left back or a left wing back and not a right wing back, is there a conversation there? I don't think so. I think you start Dawson, or sorry, I think you start Sebastian. Meanwhile, this right hand side, I think it's more of a conversation. I think personally, I would start Sebastian at right wing back anyway. But I do think what I like more from Amir Daly is what he does defensively. I think he's a better defensive player. So again, if they want to be defensively sound and go forward, then that's going to be your issue. I think Amir Daly is going to get the nod. And I do think that you can't just say, well, just start him at right wing and push Pasher to the bench or elsewhere. Because one of the really nice things about this is that this right wing, left wing option with Saucedo and Pasher is that they're left and right footed, and they're both naturally inverted wingers, which means they're going to cut inside. Think Prosper Kasim. They both will do that, but if they do the patented, hey, switch sides now, they can, and they're both accomplished passers. So I think if you have Sebastian, who's kind of right footed, or say kind of right, he's kind of right footed only. I think that that's going to be a question mark of, and he has a decent left foot, so I don't mean to say like that, but he's not going to give you that we're both cutting inside or both crossing the ball in kind of option. It'll be one or the other. So it's sort of question marks on that front. I think that's what you're looking at. I think that's what you're looking just in general. I think that you're going to see this team be very similar either way in this kind of 2-1-5-2 in the attack and a 5-4-1 in defense. It just kind of depends on, do you care more about going forward or do you care more about going back? Because this team defensively last year was not very good. So maybe Jay Heaps wants to shore that up and say, okay, no, we're done with that. We're going to practice going back and we're just not going to concede goals, especially when you have an inexperienced goalkeeper behind you maybe you're trying to shield him a little bit more. So no matter what, you're going to kind of have that 5-4-1, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing with the current roster. There may be players who have not been announced that I don't know about. And it's like, well, Kaylor, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're correct because it wasn't announced. How was I supposed to know? So kind of keep that in mind. All right. I got I got a lot more questions and a lot more stuff that has been sent. So I am going to go to the Twitterverse now, where I have been asked a lot of questions. Okay. We're going to start with Cole Bensinger, who any news on the trial list come in? Who are they? Positions, background. Okay. So I kind of told you about Daniel Gagliardi. He is a player who um he spent a lot of time just kind of bouncing around. He was with FC Tulsa for a little bit. He found his way to Miami, where he finally got a little bit of a run in. Didn't really work out for him because they were the worst team ever. So keep that in mind. You have Adam Abu Hamadi, who is a really good option. I've been watching him for a couple years now down in League Two, and he's a really good attacking midfield option. I think that he's a player who's in a similar ilk to, I don't want to call him Bruno Lapa Light, who just signed with FC Tulsa. But that's not what I mean. But he's kind of in that same ilk of playing that kind of attacking mid. He's a really good player going forward. And he can maybe be that passer that we're looking for who's up and coming. Do I think he starts right away? I don't. But he's a good bench option if that's what we get. And then Al Hassan, so good that they named him twice. He comes from the New York Red Bull, New York. What am I doing? The Chattanooga Red Wolves. And he is another midfield kind of option for this team. He is another Ghanaian, or I say midfield. He's kind of a right back. I'm sorry, my head's all over the place. He's a right back option, which maybe that's something that you want out of this team. He's another Ghanaian because we just can't quit. We cannot quit the Ghanaians. I think they have to sign him because if they don't, this will be the first year in Legion history without a Ghanaian on the team. So I think they're legally required to sign him. But he's a young player. He's a 20-year-old right back. He played with the Red Wolves the last couple of years, and I rate him. He's pacey. He has good passing about him. Does he get in over Tregarthen? No. Does he get in over Daly? Maybe. So that's the conversation you're kind of having. Does he get in over those guys? Does he want to stick around and be a possible second or third choice? Probably not. But if he's willing to do that, then I think Al Hassan is a great player for that. Cole has more questions, and it is, do you see Legion going to get more experience, known, proven USL players to come in? Yes, I do. I don't think they're going to be absolute superstars. Like, I don't think they're going to be of the same ilk as a Bryce Washington, who I think is one of the best players, the best center backs in the league. But we'll see. Let's see. Formation. We've already talked about the formation. We have enough players to field a full 11. We do have enough players to fill a full 11. If we fail to make any noise this year, this comes from TJ Runyon. If we fail to make any noise this year and even miss the playoffs again, what kind of danger do you think the club is in far of folding in the near future? Don't see the club having any more support if we suffer another year like we did in the last two. I've heard this a lot, and you guys have heard me talk about a lot the training facility, the training facility, the training facility, the training facility. As far as I understand, Legion owns that, okay? Which sounds like it shouldn't matter, but it does because it is financial reasons to stay involved. They can't just close up shop. They could sell it to somebody, but that's going to be a lot harder. And you're already seeing the investment pay off as they are a finalist to host a World Cup club when they play down in Atlanta. Is they are planning on it being one of the home bases for the World Cup, which I think is huge. that alone is going to raise the stakes of what Legion are doing. And they're pretty certain that they're going to land one of these World Cup teams. And I think that in and of itself is huge for the club. I think it's going to show that this financial investment is worth it. And that I also think that if it's used as a training ground, I think maybe you might see Legion just build around the training facility and just say this is the stadium now. There's been a lot of clubs who do it that way. They might say, okay, we'll take another one of the fields, we'll make that a training pitch. This will be the field. We're going to build it up to fit the standards. All it has to be is 5,000 seats to fit USL Championship standards. I know we want the big $10,000 to $15,000 or 15-seater stadium so we can go to Division One. But if I asked you right now, would you rather play another season in Protective Stadium and have a chance to be Division One, or play at a field the size Protective, or sorry, BBVA, and have no chance of going Division One? What is your honest answer? Yeah. So I think there's a world where they just say, hey, we're just going to build up around this and just make this a fortress and have a good time and continue to build around that. I think that there's a very little chance that the team folds. However, I do think that this year is uber important. They have talked about how this is the year they want to win back fans. 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 And that's great. I hope they win back fans too. But we'll see. It depends on what they're trying to go after. I think their initial step, which is putting all the fans on one side, is a great choice. We saw Oakland Roots do it when they were at Hayward, where they literally only had one stand. All they had was one stand. It was a giant wall, about 5 to 6,000 people, and it was intimidating. It was one of the best atmospheres in the league. And I think that it can work really well. If Legion can start getting 6,000 people at a game and they're all squished together, I think people are going to realize that the support has been there all along. It's just been spread across 3 different zip codes, right? So I think that in and of itself, excuse me, is going to be enough to win some fans back. Protective is going to protective. BJCC is going to BJCC. I had a teacher conference that I had to go to. Teacher conference. I'm a teacher. Some of you are shocked. Some of you are not. I'm a teacher. I had to pay $40 over 2 days to park. Dude. Excuse me. I'm getting so riled up that I'm choking on my own spit. But seriously, like what? Like whatever. BJCC is going to BJCC. Okay. That's just kind of what they do. I think that Legion are going to do their best given those situations, but I do think that it can. I think that move alone is going to be enough to win some fans back, and I think Nashville SC is going to be enough to win some fans back because I think they got a little ATL fatigue. I do. This is a new team, a new experience, something they can really sell on. Let's just hope it's not 15 degrees. Okay, here's a bunch of questions from Shadow Wolf, and we're going to go. Are you concerned about the goalie position after Matt Van Oekel and Trevor Spangenberg retired and Delgado left? A little bit. I'm a little concerned, but not horribly. I do think that there's a lot of talent out there. Which goalie is realistic? Is realistic to get signed by the Legion? Which goalie would you like to get signed? I keep coming back to Abraham Romero, who he was released by Crew 2. He's played in the championship a long time. He is a good modern goalkeeper with good shot stopping. He's kind of a fringe MLS USL guy. He's going to be a top end USL, bottom end MLS. I think he's a great player. I would love to see Legion bring him in. I think he's realistic. I think that he's someone that Legion could go after. And they're starting to run out spots for USL goalkeepers right now. So if Legion want to go get him, I think they would have a pretty good shot at doing so. Second question. He was an acclaimed coach for many years. Do you think he still got it? I don't have no reason to think he doesn't. We talked about him being a 4-back already. That was the first half of this conversation. Who is the next 6 or a 10 to be signed by Legion? Let's see his board of peace. If he's not already signed, who would you like to see Legion get? This is an interesting one. where I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet that I had open and for some reason I closed. That's really intelligent by me. Um, I think that right now, I don't think that Legion's going to bring in a 10 because I think they like what they have in Joshua, Peter Lee Vassell, and Tyler Pasher. I think they like those midfield options. For Mikulatin or AJ Patterson as a six, is that what we're looking at? I don't really know who is available off the top of my head at this point, whom I really like as a central midfield or central defensive mid option. Um, I know Omar Sis is available from uh, Charlotte Independence. I rate him so highly. I think Omar Sis is incredible. I think that he's one that I would look at if I was Legion and say, let's give him a shot. Let's possibly talk about bringing him in. So maybe that's your answer. Omar Sis as the number six. Got more questions. I'm trying to get to them. Uh, any news regarding same improvements? Whenever that. Which opponents in the USL Cup are you looking forward to playing the most? A little bit of FC Tulsa because I want to see how Legion compare against the best of the West again. Plus, again, we talked about it before. They got Bruno Lapa. I just think that's fun. I am also very interested in seeing them face off against Corpus Christi. Ayman Zayed, I just really respect the ever living crap out of Ayman Zayed. I think he's awesome. So I'm excited to see what he can do with this Corpus Christi squad. And I want to see the Red Wolves again. I think that's going to be very exciting. I think that they are one of the top teams in League One again. So again, what's that level at for Birmingham? Because the gap between League One and the Championship is not that far. So I think that that would be very fun. That'd be very fun for Legion to see where they stack up. Are you concerned about possible playoff appearance? No, because I would just love to make the playoffs. I mean, one of the best Legion memories we have is taking down North Carolina FC, may they rest in peace, in a play-in game, and then we got absolutely slaughtered um, with against Pittsburgh. But we don't talk about that part. We talk about the part that was fun. Let's see. We talked about expectations all way. By the way, I am on now. I have moved over to the Instagram. I am getting there. My brain is just not working for me. And I really like this question. Which academy player should should Legion give a shot to? Where I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet on that front. Give me just a second. All right. So there's a lot of names here that I really like. Matthew Van Horn, I think, is a player that is really good that Legion fans would really like. Ty Sanchez, Lucas Rizzo are two players that Legion would really like. But there's another one that I think Legion fans would really love. And he's already played a little bit, but this was years, maybe he played. I think he played. Which was Alan Melendez. Melendez, I think, has worked really hard. I think he's a great player. I think that as a center back, he's grown a lot since going to UAB. I think he is going to be the easiest to slot in if he's able to play. But a lot of these guys are your they are still in college, so it might be a little harder to get them to play. But over the summer, Alan Melendez, Matthew Van Horn, he's going to assist, he's going to score. I think that's a fun one for Legion fans to keep their eye on. And Lucas Rizzo, I think, and Ty Sanchez, those would be my personal choices for players to come out of the academy and play a little bit. Dom is going to be any good under Jay. Okay, so I did a lot of research into this. I have players who, under Jay Heaps, they were the top goal scorers for the New England Revolution. And I was just kind of getting an idea of the players who were the best of the best. Um, One that I thought was really interesting, in year one, which was for him, which was 2011, they had Shaliri Joseph, whom, if you're thinking, who is that? I don't know who that is. That's fair. I didn't know either. He is a defensive midfielder. At least he was a defensive midfielder, kind of midfield option from Grenada, the country Grenada, which doesn't that sound like AJ Patterson? Anyway, he scored 8 goals as a defensive midfielder, which I think is incredible. I don't know how we got 8 goals out of him, but that was fun. Uh, Big body. I mean, he is a big player. He is someone who is 6'3" and just an absolute giant. Got 8 goals. I Maybe that's what we're going to see of out of this Legion team is let AJ Patterson get in there and cook a little bit. I don't know, but it was fun. So that's where you're starting off. 8 goals from defensive mid. What a guy. What a player. So that does not bode well for Ronaldo Damas. But I'm going to get more into it. So Ronaldo Damas is a quick, pacey player. He's technical enough, but he is not the most technical player on the planet. He's about 5'9" ish. And he is a player who you look at his frame and you say, okay, he probably should be a winger, but he's not. He is just a smaller forward whom can get in behind and really cause some issues for other teams in terms of his pace and what he brings going forward in that sense. I say all that to say, let's look at the players who made a big deal for this team, who made a big deal for um, the Revolution back in the day, and how does Damas compare with size and with their kind of general outlook? First one was Sire Sane. I think it's how you pronounce his name. This was from 2012. He is a player who was 6'3". It's absolute giant from Paris, France. Where, yeah, he is a center forward slash winger. He played a lot of time as a winger, so he was a fast player. He was technical, but I consider him to be more of a center forward type player, being 6'3", but not too indifferent on how Legion utilized JJ Williams or Juan Agudelo when they had him. Big bodies, huge bodies, but they'd rather push him out wide to kind of use their technique. But that doesn't fit what Ronaldo Damas is. That is not who Ronaldo is. So I don't think that's our best comp. In 2023, they had as their top goal scorer. Everything is kind of lagging right now because of what I have all these tabs open. Diego Fagundes, he is the next player that was kind of on the chopping block for us. He is a player who was, and I'm trying to scroll up. He was 5'8". That works. Kind of light. He was a quick technical player, still playing actually for LA Galaxy, which is cool. Shout out to you. But the issue is he was a winger. He was a left-right winger. Kind of played as a second striker, sort of. If you had two players, big striker, little striker, he was little striker. Does not bode well for Ronaldo Damas unless Legion is planning to bring in a big body striker. That's not boding well either. It's the same framework, but again, this is a winger that would sometimes tuck into the middle, get over on his preferred right, and then take shots that way. Scored a lot of goals though. Good for you, and you're still doing it, man. Look at you go, Fagundes. Shout out Diego, great career. And I'm again, my internet is running so slow because the amount of tabs I have open is an ungodly amount of tabs. All right, next one we have up is going to be 2024, which is Lee Nguyen. I think that's how you pronounce his name. whom I love this as a player. I used him all the time on FIFA when I was playing like FIFA 16. I used him all the time because he was kind of a cheat code. Um, but he is in more the boat of Enzo Martinez. He was someone who could play anywhere along the spine, anywhere from being your second striker down to defensive midfielder. That was his game. He was not an out and out striker. He was a more deep line player who would get into some like little spots. He would get to the that area 14, top of the box, maybe to the penalty spot, finish goals, finish up your scraps. Again, he is more in the ilk of Enzo than Ronaldo. All right. Now we go over to 20. And by the way, he scored 18 goals, man. 18 goals. Good for you, Lee. 2015, we are 2 years away from Jay stepping down. Their top goal scorer was Charlie Davies. Charlie, he is if I remember correct, he's okay. He is a 5'10" striker. He was pretty quick. He was technical. He could get in behind, pacey guy. Again, he was more in the line of Ronaldo. So if I am looking for the comp, I am looking at Charlie Davies, and he is about 5'10", 5'9", fast, technical player who was not afraid to put a body on somebody. This sounds to me like your best comp. So, how did it work for them back then? We don't really have match data, unfortunately. I wish we did. It would have been really nice. But either way, you had a team who was fairly successful or fairly successful squad, probably playing a four-man back line if I was a betting man. He was up top. He was being supported by Lee Higuain. He was being supported by a Juan Agudelo, a Teal Bunbury, a Diego Fagundes. So someone who had a lot of wing and midfield talent behind him to feed him goals. I think that's a similar setup to what Legion has now. Maybe not the same type of wingers as Fagundes and Juan Agudelo or Atil Bunbury, but still similar ilk relative to the player in the USL Championship. Charlie Davis got 10 goals and 3 assists. If you're Birmingham, would you take 10 goals from Ronaldo Damas? Yes. Yes, check it, done. Want that. Because what they also had that year was Lee Higuain with 7 goals from behind. He was able to finish chances kind of like an Enzo did. You have Kelly Rowe, who was a defender forward kind of midfield option. He would kind of do the left or like not midfield, sorry. He was just kind of a wider player. He would finish those chances. Sometimes he would play in the middle. Juan Agudelo, again, he would be that big body to a little body. He was able to get those chances. Diego Fagundes, again, same thing, out wide. I am looking at this 2015 New England Revolution team, and I am saying, okay, this is a similar setup. And they were able to spread goals around. Charlie Davies got 10. Lee Higuain got 7. Kellen Rowe got 7. Juan Agudelo got 7. Diego Fagundes got 6. Teal Bunbury got 4. You're looking at these players and you're saying that's a lot of wealth being distributed. And I think that would be Legion's best chance. Do I really think that he's going to get the best out of Juan Agudelo? Considering that's our best comp. Our best comp is this 2015 team with Charlie Davies. I don't know. I don't know if that is who you're wanting to compare him to. I think your other option is the other option was Kai Kamara, who came in, but again, he's 6'2". He's a big body on a big body, right? I don't know how Jay is going to get on with Ronaldo without having a second striker, a big body striker beside him. But maybe he's been able to get into the lab and cook a little bit. Maybe there's stuff we don't know that's going on. But if you have a second striker for Ronaldo to play with, which I think will be fine, who gets displaced? Is it a Leavasell? Is it Shashua? Is it a Salcedo? Salcedo can kind of play striker, but again, he's not a big body striker for Ronaldo to run off of. I don't know. I think that was a really interesting question that led me down a rabbit hole, and I hope you guys were able to follow it. If not, here I am. I'm just doing the dang thing. Not really a preseason related question, but how short of a leash does Jay have as a coach? He has this year. We know he has this year, but I get the feeling, and this is just a pure guess, that he's going to have more pressure on him now. I think that he's going to have more pressure on him to as both a CEO and as a coach, because if one of them starts to falter, you would say, okay, do the other one. You're just going to focus on that one. If both falter, then I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. I think that I think ownership is going to be tough on him. I think he's built up enough of a leash to allow himself to be the coach. He doesn't go to the owners and say, I'm the coach now, and then just be like, go on, big dog, do your thing. Right. There's obviously a lot of trust built in. So I think he's going to have a leash for him. But I think that this year is going to be very much make or break. If this doesn't work, you're not getting next year. I kind of said that at the beginning of the show. When we find out all the players, other clubs have already played preseason games and have a starting roster, why would we want to freeze our butt off if we don't know 11 players? We have a good starting 11. I mentioned this a couple of times, but I think that we should expect going into match day 1, again, I would say 6 to 8 signings. They may be bench players, but I really like our starting 11. I really do. I think it's a good team that can compete for playoff spots. And if they really hit, if Ronaldo does his dang thing and scores a million goals and the back line is as strong as I think it can be, then I don't see why Legion can't compete for a top 4 spot if somebody else falters, if a Pitt falters a little bit, if Loudon isn't who I think they will be, if Detroit City falls off more than I think they will, if Pittsburgh, I mentioned Pittsburgh, if Dequa and Amon don't hit the way that I think they should, then Legion can be going top 4. I think that the starting 11 is that good. I think we're just going to have to wait and see about this final 6 to 8 players. But I think there's talent there. And I think that if you are planning to go out there and freeze your butt off, because it's going to be cold, man, you should still go. It can't be any worse than the Huntsville City game, which I think there might have been 12 of us total at the Huntsville City game when it was 30 degrees and pouring rain. I'm still shivering. I'm still cold from that match. I got so sick after that. Anyway, I think you should still go. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with the level of talent that's on the pitch. Legion has lost a lot of talent this offseason. Let's not get it twisted. But as much as I love Jake, and Jake is the one player I really want back. I really hope Jake Roof can finish his career in a Legion shirt. I think that he is exactly what Legion needed to embody. I don't know where he gets in this team right now. You could convince me that he takes AJ Patterson's spot as a third center back, and I think I'd be okay with that. Maybe Fanwell if he's on international duty, but I don't know unless you just have an absolute banger of a signing being lined up, probably at left back or a true right back. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think that there's a lot of upgrades out there. I think it's a good team. I don't know if it's a great team, but it's definitely going to be a good team. I'm fairly certain of that. So that's a lot of questions, and I hope my rambling and rants and all that kind of stuff was helpful to you. Hopefully that you enjoyed that. So thank you all so much for listening. Until next time, guys, keep hammering on.